For my theorist, I chose Erik Erikson. Erikson was born into a Danish family near Frankfurt, Germany. His biological father, having left his mother after a short affair, was never part of his life. However, his adoptive father, whom he grew to care for, was Jewish. Rather than going to school, he traveled around Europe, and upon returning to Germany, he enrolled in art school and taught art to children for a while, and was encouraged to begin studying psychology, and he was admitted to the Psychoanalytic Institute in Vienna. His work was very respected as one of the first child psychologists, and he worked at Harvard as well as Yale, Berkeley, and the Menninger Foundation. Throughout his career as a theorist, he focused on a broad range of topics. PTSD in World War II, parenting practices, he observed children at play, learning what their stages of development can tell us in their actions, identity crisis in adolescence. He studied Indian culture and social issues there as well as in the U.S. In the U.S., his studies focused on the generation gap, racial tensions, juvenile delinquency, sex roles, and nuclear war. He also published a series of books throughout his lifetime as well, and these are listed here on the slide. Erikson's main ideas focused on an 8-stage growth model. He believed that individuals develop continuously throughout their lives. His research mostly focused on men, however, his theory was general enough that it can definitely be applied to women. One main idea in the female aspect being that women need to develop an intimate relationship before they are able to complete a sense of self as an individual. In regards to religion, his idea was that we study our various religions in order to grasp an understanding of how to find the strength to handle life's challenges. His thoughts on religion were adaptive and open-minded, not regressive, focusing on development, growth, and maturity. In terms of our personality, he felt that we were constantly developing and changing. These changes occurred in a series of 8 stages. These stages are dependent on environmental factors and sets limits on nurturing. And yes, our personalities do change as we grow and develop. According to Erikson, infancy is an important part of development, however not any more important than the rest of the 8 stages. How we are treated in the sense of trust we develop in infancy through the relationship with our parents or caretakers determines how trusting we are of our peers and our environment. Mistrust can develop if a child's basic needs are not met. Infancy is coincidentally the first stage of development, the second being from 18 months to 3 years of age, in which we develop a sense of autonomy in hopes that we develop pride in our work. However, low self-esteem can develop through repeated failure in learning new skills. The third stage is from ages 3 to 5, in which we learn the difference between initiative and guilt. In this phase, we learn by example, copying our parents in play, learning what it means to be an adult and the roles they carry. In the 4th stage, we develop more socially through our interactions with peers. This can translate into low self-esteem and a sense of inadequacy. From ages 6 to 12, children are developing intellectually and personally. Personality changes occur as they begin to become more familiar with adulthood. Stage 5 occurs from ages 12 to 18. This is all about what we do and our actions. We learn a sense of morality and devotion to ideals, as well as develop close friendships that we cherish. Some struggle in this stage to avoid growing up and refuse to enter the beginnings of adulthood, which can lead to upheaval and conflict in life. The next stage focuses on intimacy and isolation, and developing of relationships in which we build each other up rather than complete each other. The goal in relationships during this phase is to remain oneself while partaking in a deep, meaningful relationship, while in the 5th stage, relationships tend to be all about needing someone to complete you. The 7th stage occurs between ages of 35 and 60. The goal here is one's career and family oriented. During this stage, major life shifts may occur, like children leaving home or changing careers. The final stage, and what we experience in the final years of our lives, it is a stage of evaluation of our lives. We spend a lot of time reflecting on our lives, and some might struggle to find a purpose during this stage. The main question asked during integrity versus despair stage is, was life worth it? A lot of things make Erikson's ideas interesting to me. I like that despite his educational circumstances, he followed his desire to pursue art and then on to psychology when the time was right. Because he did not have formal psychological education, much of his work is common language and very relatable. His ideas that we develop through a series of crises feels very accurate, and I feel that everyone is always fighting some sort of internal battle. As little as it may seem, that battle is making us stronger, and we grow from it. His theory has the potential to be applied across a variety of cultures, and Erikson acknowledged that the ways these stages manifest change from culture to culture, especially in the aspect of nurture. The idea that sets him apart seems to be the idea that personality development does not end with adolescence, and rather we are constantly growing and learning. The fact that his biological father was never part of the picture created a sort of crisis for Erikson in his youth, which I feel influenced his ideas of infancy and youth development. He faced issues in school not completely fitting in, and doing these things differently in his education was another source of identity conflict. In teaching children, he was exposed to youth and how they learn new skills through painting, which influenced his theory as well. I think that Erikson would say I'm experiencing a phase of young adulthood in which I am looking for deep, lasting relationships, as well as focused on getting through school, starting a career, and a family in the future. When compared to Jung, there are many similarities. Both theories revolve around the concept of conflict resolution, the idea that there are two distinct opposing sides in these conflicts, and successful resolution will allow for the moving forward of our development of identity. On another note, Freud and Erikson had their differences. While he was close with Freud, Erikson was not a Freudian. His idea of woman was much more open. He disagreed with Freud's idea of the female Oedipus complex, de-emphasizing sexual motivation throughout development. Freud's ideas were also culture-bound to Europe, while Erikson's were generally applicable to all cultures. Erikson seemed to be more concerned with people's life mission rather than unresolved childhood conflict. All in all, I like the thought that we are continuously developing. I think that we are all constantly experiencing things that generate challenges in our mindset and our personality. Whichever stage you are in, you're experiencing some sort of growth. The idea that we never reach a point where we are basically done developing mentally, emotionally, or intellectually allows us to expand our views on the rest of our lives. One thing that rang true with me was his idea of the human need for companionship and interdependence. Whatever the nature of the relationship, good interactions with companions gives us a sense of humanity and sensitivity. So I wanted to end with this quote: "Life doesn't make sense without interdependence. We need each other, and the sooner we learn that, the better for us all."